Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is John Viglotti. On behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for our 3-day Clean Energy and Precious Metals Conference. We start today with a live presentation from Elevate Uranium. Please note you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome our first presenter. He's Murray Hill, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Elevate Uranium, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol ELVUF and on the ASX under the symbol EL8. Welcome back, Murray.
Thanks, John. It's nice to be here, and thanks for having me back. I'm trying to work out whether I'm special being first for a 3-day conference, but thank you, and I look forward to presenting. So, we're a uranium-focused company, as you've talked about, and we've got 2 jurisdictions we operate in: Namibia and Australia, both Tier 1, so geographically diverse. We've got 142 million pound of resources globally. We've got an extensive and diverse project pipeline, which I'll run through in a minute, and we've got this patented upgrade beneficiation process, which adds significant value to our assets by reducing the cost base and giving us some optionality around development pathways. We're aggressively drilling in Namibia at the moment. We've got 3 drill rigs working flat out on the Copies project. We've got a small team, but experienced and dedicated team, and we're strategically located in Namibia. I'll explain that a little bit later. And what better time to be in the uranium industry? We're listening to what's coming out of COP28, and it's pretty exciting from a nuclear point of view. 20 plus countries committing to tripling nuclear demand or nuclear power by 2050. So that's pretty exciting for all of us. As I say, we're dedicated in uranium. We're not interested in other commodity. We're not distracted. And the 2 jurisdictions we operate in, Namibia and Australia. In Namibia, we've got our flagship Copies project. It became flagship. We announced an update on the resource last month to 48 million pound. We've got the Marinika project in country as well. And their main project in Australia is the Angela project. Is 31 million pound at 1300 ppm there. So there are 3 main projects in those 2 countries. And just to look at our development pathway, we've got a graph here that shows the uranium spot price, and you can see that when we first come into uranium in 2006, we rode the wave up, the last boom, and then ever since then it's been dropping. And during that decreasing uranium price period, we sort of updated the resource on the Marinika project, which was the only project we had back then, and then out of necessity we developed this process called upgrade. And right at the bottom of the market, we took sort of the upgrade process and thought, what are we going to do with this? Well, let's go and build a land position that we can apply upgrade to. So we picked up a number of tenements in Namibia, and we also acquired some assets in Australia. And as this uranium price started to move up, that's when we started discovering uranium. We've had 4 discoveries in Namibia in the last 4 years. And as I say, last month, we announced an upgrade of our resource from 20 million pound to 48 million pound, 136% upgrade on the Copies project, our first discovery back 4 years ago. So corporately, for an Australian ASX listed company, 285 million shares on issue is a low number. I like to see the position here of nil debt, and we've got 7.7 million cash in the bank. And I'm talking Australian dollars. I apologise to our North American listeners and anywhere else in the world. We're dealing with Australian dollars in here. So we're looking at a bit of a separation between the uranium price in this chart here, the green chart, and then the blue line is our stock price. So there's a bit of separation there. So we're expecting with time we will make that up just because of the uranium price moves, but also in the activities we're doing. Major shareholders, well, the second largest shareholder there behind the ETF is board and management. You'd be interested to know I put 612,000 Australian dollars in last month to exercise some options. That's a significant investment from my point of view, and took some convincing my wife, but we've got there, and we're really, I'm really passionate about what we do as a company. You talk the talk, but you walk the walk when you put money like that in. So I'm really demonstrating to shareholders that I'm committed to this company and what I'm talking about. I like the story, so I'm really passionate. So board and management, ASX listed companies need a minimum of 3 directors. We've got 3 directors on one of them. We've got 2 executives on one of them. So we're not top heavy. We don't spend a lot of money on executive teams, and hence we spend a lot of money on the ground in Namibia. And that's why down the bottom right of this slide, you'll see happy smiling faces in Namibia. They're all happy, they've got jobs, they're working hard for us and doing a fantastic job. So when we look at Namibia, it's a fantastic jurisdiction to be in. You sort of ask the question, why are we there? Well, we're there because it's a known uranium producing country. It's the 3rd largest at the moment. Was the 4th largest, but with Canada sort of not producing much, it's moved to 3rd. It's got a history of uranium mining. So in 1976, the Rossing uranium mine in the middle of this slide commenced operation. It is the longest continuously running uranium mine in the world. So there's plenty of support from government, plenty of support from the Namibians themselves. There's 47 years of continuous operating. That's over 2 generations of Namibian that's very familiar with uranium mining. So they're not scared by it and very familiar and used to it. So there's other mines in the area that have been developed over the last 15 years. So there's also a history of developing mines. So what we're looking for is paleo channels, so shallow uranium deposits, secondary uranium deposits where the uranium, as the granites have weathered, release the uranium out of those, it's flowed down through old river systems and reprecipitated when the geological conditions are right. So most of these deposits within about 25 metres of surface, being covered over the millions of years with cover, so we need to go and find those. So the 2 areas we've focused on are the central Orongo area to the north of this map and down in the Namib area. That's where we've got all of our projects at the moment, but not to say we're going to have, we're always looking around for different projects, particularly in Namibia where we think we can, find some uranium. We've got 4 discoveries in the last 4 years. So we've got a bit of a history of understanding the country, understanding where we'll find uranium. So the pipeline I talked about before, we've got the Maranika project and Copies project, both at resource level now. We want to take those to the next level, and that's what we're working on next year. Resource definition for the next 2 discoveries, Capri and Hirabeb. So a rig on those, drilling those out to get a resource on those. So continually moving up that pyramid. And then that's 4 of the 12 tenements we've got in Namibia. So what we're obviously aiming to do next year is continually moving projects up this pyramid, and putting another level on there where we've got technical studies and taking it to the next level. So quite a diverse pipeline, as I said earlier, and a lot of projects there to be working on. So the Namib area is where we've got our main focus right now because it's where Copies is. We're drilling, all 3 drill rigs are working at Copies at the moment. Why do we pick up this position? It's a large contiguous land position. To give a bit of a scale, the tenement down at the very bottom there is about 40 kilometres from west to east. So it's a huge area we're dealing with here. And we picked up this area because there was 270 million pound of known resources at Langer Heinrich, Tumas and at Oceananas, all discovered by General Mining back in the late 70s, early 80s. And then that General Mining also identified a lot of targets for exploration in the ground that we've got now. We bought that data off the Geological Survey, trolled through it, and determined some great prospects in there, and one was Copies. So that's the first tenement we applied for, and then we progressively applied for more as they become available. And that's the first tenement we applied for, the first tenement we got granted. So we're really quite excited about this area and justified in so because, we have announced an upgrade on the Copies resource to 48 million pound. I wanted to show the map here. This is the map showing how many drill holes we've got left to drill, not how many holes we've drilled to date. So there's about 1,410 holes there still to drill. But we're drilling, each drill rig is drilling 5 holes per day for about $1,000 a hole. So we're drilling 15 holes per day with the 3 rigs, and we're going out on a Monday. We leave the drill rigs out there for the weekend. We leave the tents out there for the weekend. We come out Monday morning and we drill to Friday afternoon. And in those 5 days, we're drilling 75 holes between the rigs. Now, sometimes I'll drill a few more than that, but generally about 75 holes. So 1,400 holes, you do your maths on 75 holes a week. There's a lot of holes to be drilled over a long period of time. So we're expecting, and what we're working on now, I should say, is down the bottom of this map, south of the known resource. And you can sort of pick the known resource that's inside the sort of holes that are yet to drill. So down in the south is where we're drilling now at Copies 2 South and at Copies 4. We're expecting that we'll finish that drilling Q1 next year and announce another resource update. So we know that the 48 million pound is growing, and how far it grows to, I'm not certain. But when you've got a 20 kilometre strike length that you're drilling out, it's going to be a fairly big number. So next year we're looking at news flow coming out of this is Q1, another update on the resource. And what we then believe is that because we're at a point where the uranium price is sitting at $80 a pound plus now, we've got 48 million pound already. As of a month ago, we weren't exactly certain where we were going with this. Now at 48 plus million pound, we know we're going to make a project out of this. So what our intention is to commence a indicated resource program of drilling, because we're currently getting inferred. So increase our confidence level in the resource. That'll allow us to announce financial metrics to the market. So we'll also run a metallurgical test work program in parallel with our upgrade process. So the drill out will take us in excess of 12 months, probably about 13 months of drilling. We'll run a metallurgical test work program in parallel, and then they'll both feed into a scoping study or maybe a more advanced study. We'll see where we're going at the time. But certainly feed into a study to get ourselves in a position to understand the capital cost and operating costs around this project, and then move through to a pilot plan to prove our upgrade process, which we think is important to do. Now, one of the great things about this resource I love is this image here shows that 50% of the ore is within 6.5 metres in surface. I'm sorry, I'm not talking feet, but look, what are we talking? Within 20 feet of surface. All right, so 95% of the ore is within 15 metres or 45 feet. So this is really, really shallow. One of the shallowest uranium deposits in the world. I've been asked about the Athabasca Basin and, how do we compare? Well, so I said, Namibia has grades of 100 to 500 ppm. The Athabasca Basin has huge grades relative to these. But the Athabasca Basin, you couldn't drill a hole for $1,000. In fact, you couldn't even get to site for $1,000. Whereas, and you're drilling 400 or 500 metre deep holes. In Namibia, we're drilling 25, 28 metre deep holes, costing us $1,000. We've got a 95% of resource within 15 metres of surface. So that means we're going to have a very shallow mining process. It's going to be low cost. It's going to be low strip ratio. So huge benefit and huge advantage for us in terms of the Copies project. So when you couple the really shallow nature of the ore with the upgrade process, which I'll talk about in a minute, that means we've got a very good project, I believe, going forward. So I'm looking forward to, the next couple of years when we're getting our studies moving and doing our metallurgical test work program with the upgrade process. So the next project we've got in the Namib area is the Hirabeb project. It was our second discovery. We're looking to take that to a resource next year. And we're also, what we've learned from areas around Copies 3 about the mineralisation there, we think there's a few areas on the Hirabeb tenement that we can go and do some exploration on. So a two-pronged attack on Hirabeb next year, exploration and also resource growth. So moving up to the central Orongo area, this is where we've got the Marinika project, 61 million pound resource, low grade. This is what we developed upgrade on. It's only 60 kilometres from the Rossing uranium mine, only 25, 30 kilometres from Orano's Strakopi project, and only 30 kilometres away from our more recent discovery of Capri. So it's all relatively close proximity. So the Marinika project, as I said, 61 million pound. It was one of those projects that was very low grade. You either had to do something innovative or you walked away, and we did something innovative. We developed this upgrade process. It took the ore grade from 100 ppm to 5,000 ppm prior to leaching. It's a 50 times upgrade. It's an enormous upgrade. So what it means is you end up with less, for that project, less than 2% of the mass goes to leach. So it's a significant reduction. You can imagine if you've got a process plant where you're rejecting mass all the way through, the unit operations are getting smaller and smaller. So hence your capital cost is dropping, your operating costs are dropping. So we've done some work from a cost point of view about 5 years ago and established that there was about a 50% reduction in capital and operating costs compared to conventional processing with our upgrade circuit. So it really has meant that the Marinika project is now something that's going to be developed with time. as opposed to sitting back years ago and thinking, well, we need, well, $120 a pound or whatever it is. So it really has been an enabler to develop this project in future, and also Upgrade as a catalyst for us to grow the company. Capri is another, as I mentioned before, is a discovery. It's also, like Hirabev, got 16 kilometres of mineralisation identified. So obviously next year we want to go and drill that out to get more resources, as we do at Hirabev. But the western side of this tenement looks very much like Copies 3. So we really want to get out there and do some more exploration work on it as well. So again, much like Hirabev, two-pronged attack, exploration and also resource growth. So they're the sort of, I've just talked about 4 of the projects we've got in Namibia. We've got 12 tenements. So you can imagine the enormous potential we've got in country. So we're looking forward to, what the coming years bring for us over there. Now, moving across to where I live in Perth, and it's 10 o'clock at night here. So we've got projects here, four 100% owned projects, 2 in Western Australia, 2 in Northern Territory, and then we've got some joint venture projects in the Northern Territory as well. So 48 million pound in total resources across these projects. Sorry, my slide hasn't. Yes, it has. Northern Territory is a good place to be. It's producing uranium. The Angela project is 25 kilometres from the capital. Sorry, not the capital. Alice Springs is a large town in Alice Springs in the Northern Territory. We've got 31 million pound at 1,300 ppm. So it's a good grade and it's a good size resource. When someone else had it previous to us, they had an acid consumption problem they couldn't work out. We come along, we did 4 tests at bench scale, and we rejected 80% of the acid consumers. So a huge cost reduction for that project. And you don't optimize anything in 4 tests, as anybody would know. So we've got a lot more optimization work to do, but it's very, very encouraging that we can reject so much acid consumption. And then what we did late last year, early this year, was we did a seismic survey, and the seismic survey identified the sandstone lens that contains a mineralisation. It's a sandstone hosted deposit and dips at about 9 degrees to the west. It identified that lens and then identified another lens beneath the mineralised one. So no hole has penetrated that new lens. So we're looking to do some drilling on that next year to find out if in fact it is mineralised. It may not be, but we're looking forward to finding out if it is. So a couple of issues there. One is, we reduced the acid consumption of that project through upgrade process and our smarts, and we're also looking to expand the resource with additional drilling. The Minerva project, 175 kilometres northwest of Alice Springs, that was discovered in 1978. No one's drilled it since. 10 holes were drilled into it with grades in excess of 10,000 ppm. So this is exceptional grades for Australia. And we're really looking forward to getting a drill rig in there to sort of do some diamond holes and understand the structure and work out what controls the mineralisation, and then work out how to explore this further. So that's where we're at. We're getting encouragement from the Northern Territory government to spend money in the territory to improve our resource base there. West Australia is where I live. Unfortunately, we've got a Labor government that don't like uranium, and as you will be hearing at the moment, Australia are getting a lot of flack for not supporting nuclear in the country. So we're looking forward to either them changing their mind or a change of government. Where people are a bit more open-minded to the benefits of nuclear. So we're sitting on those waiting for that decision to change. Now, the big question I want to get asked a lot is upgrade. What is upgrade? Upgrade is where we looked at the minerals present in the ore. We looked at their associations, and then we worked out how we wanted to reject minerals. So what we actually do is we commonly use unit operations you'd find in a gold, a base metal, or a mineral sands plant, and we target specific minerals and their properties to concentrate them and then reject them. So it's reverse thinking. You don't normally concentrate a gangue mineral or waste mineral and throw it away. You generally concentrate the valuable commodity, whereas we don't concentrate the uranium until the very last stage. So it's completely reverse thinking, and that's what makes it innovative and patentable. So we have 3 patents on this process worldwide, and one over the full process and then one over different parts of it, the second and third over different parts of it. So what it does is because it rejects so much mass, we end up with less than 5% of the mass in the concentrate. So what that means is you then have a small mass, high-grade concentrate that you can either leach on site and produce yellowcake yourself in your own refinery, or the optionality I mentioned before is, and the location relative to someone like Rossing, for instance, been there 47 years. Most uranium projects that have been operating for a long time have excess capacity in their refinery because they were designed for a higher grade. Rossing also deep in the pit now. The ore's got a little bit harder. So they've got excess capacity in the back end of the plant. So that's an option that I was talking about before. Go to a third party and leach it and refine it, or leach and refine it yourself. That's the optionality we have. So what it means is that, upgrade working on copies, for instance. Do you produce yellowcake? Well, I'm not sure whether we will. Here's an option. You can take it off site. Or, if you found a heap of pounds at Hirabeb, you might bring the concentrate there and have a central processing facility at Copies where you're producing yellowcake. So the optionality, the development pathway that we have for these projects is varied. I mean, there's so many tunes you can play, unlike a lot of our peers that have one route. That's it. That's the only route they can take. So the multiple routes that we have really add significant value to us. And what we also have from an environmental point of view, so you can imagine if you're not consuming anywhere near as much acid, if you're not consuming, you're not transporting that acid through build-up areas and towns, you then have a small tailings dam if you have one yourself, or you go to a third party use their tailings dam. So also you're producing a concentrate of calcite, which you're going to throw out, but you could throw that back in with the leach tail, neutralise the acid completely, and produce an inert tailings. So it really is a fantastic process. But when you're a little bit more detail on the calcrete deposits in Namibia, they're all full of calcite, so they consume a vast quantity of acid, so you hence can't leach them with acid. It's uneconomic. The top 3 to 4 metres, and for us at Copies, that's 25% of the ore, is high in sulfates. So the alternative to acid is alkali. Alkali is consumed by sulfates. So you can't leach these ores in the top 3 to 4 metres with acid or alkali, so they've got no life there. So that becomes mineralised waste, for want of a better term, and you're only mining what's underneath it. What we do is, because we reject the calcite, we can go to an acid leach. It doesn't matter about the sulfates because it's a sulfuric acid leach. So hence we can then bring that 25% of the ore back into the resource that others can't. So it's a fantastic process for us, and it's a process that nobody else has. So we're excited about what it gives us and what it can do, both in Australia and Namibia, for both of these. So I've mentioned the COP28 and what nuclear is doing for the world now and what it will do in the future. I mean, there's an enormous amount of nuclear energy required as we go forward, and as we're pushing down this EV pathway, this low carbon emission pathway. If you want baseload reliable energy, where do you get it from? You don't get it from wind or solar. You don't get it from anywhere else but nuclear. It's carbon free, it's baseload reliable, and it's low cost. So to us, it's a no-brainer, and I think it's a no-brainer for a lot of countries around the world at the moment, and a big discussion point. And obviously, when you're producing so much nuclear energy, where do you get the uranium fuel from? At the moment, we're not producing enough uranium to satisfy the demand from the current reactor fleet, and that reactor fleet's growing by the year. So the only way to incentivize new uranium production is for the underlying commodity price to go up. So the uranium price has to continue going up to incentivize production. I mean, you're seeing now it's sitting at $80 a pound. No new mines are coming on stream. It's only ones coming out of care and maintenance that are coming back. So it still hasn't hit a high enough price to incentivize new production from new mines to develop. So we see that this is going to continue, that we're going to need a lot more uranium. The price has got to go a lot higher than it currently is. So that's going to help us tremendously. But the other thing that's helping us is what we do as a company. We're having a lot of exploration success. We're adding value through increasing our resource base and then taking that to the next level, improving our upgrade process. So just in summary, geographically diverse into great uranium jurisdictions in terms of producers now, with no geopolitical issues at all that we've experienced in Namibia, unlike some other uranium producing countries around the world. We've got 142 million pound of global resources, and that's growing. It's going to grow next Q1 next year and continue to grow next year. You've now seen that we've got an extensive and diverse project pipeline. There's a lot of projects coming on stream over a long period of time. The cost to us to explore those aren't high, so hence we can continue to service those high number of tenements we've got. We've got a patented upgrade beneficiation process that adds significant value through both reducing capital and operating costs, but also the optionality it provides us in our development pathway. We're aggressively drilling. I mean, how many people you hear say we drill 5 holes per day per rig, and we're drilling 25 holes per week per rig, and hence with 3 rigs we're doing 75 holes a day. And who could say they cost $1,000 a hole? I can, with my hand on my heart, and we're getting a lot of success out of that program. So very happy with that aggressive program. That'll continue through next year. We've got a small team, as I mentioned before, dedicated, a lot of uranium experience in there, we're not top heavy. We're putting a lot of money into exploration on the ground. Strategically located, I mentioned that before. Now you can understand what I'm saying. There's other uranium producers in Namibia that could take our concentrate, and hence that gives us the optionality as to how we develop these projects. And what better time than in the uranium industry? I mean, you couldn't have picked a better time to sit there and be in this industry, even though we've been there. We're not a fly-by-night. We've been here for 16 years or 17 years. We're not one that's just joined the ranks in the last 6 months. We've been hanging around for a long time. We've been building a base to work off, and we're really sort of showing that base is fantastic and strong now as we grow resources and grow to the next level. So I'd like to finish on this slide because this is the Copies project in Namibia. As you can see, none of us have been taken by a lion. No leopards surprised us at this stage. We plan a drill program and we can drill wherever we want. It's not as though we've got vegetation to clear, but at the same time, it is a desert. It is a national park. We respect it and we rehabilitate every hole. But it's a barren, beautiful countryside. You wouldn't think that until you've been there. You look at the photo and go, yeah, it's pretty boring. But I can tell you, it's quite a beautiful spot to be. So thanks for listening. I've got a few minutes left. I won't get through all these questions. There's a lot of questions coming in. But what I'll do is I'll make sure that OTC send me these questions, and we will then I'll send you emails or even phone some people. I see one bloke on the list that I know. I might phone him. Look, the first question, can you speak to your capital position with regards to 2024 initiatives? And we've got 7.7 million in the bank. We're spending about 700,000 a month. So, there's 11 months. And we know it's quiet over Christmas, New Year. And of that 7.7 million we've got in the bank, after that date, I've put in 612,000 myself. So, and the chairman and a couple of our executives also put money in. So, there's 800,000 put into the coffers there. So that's a month's worth of drilling as well. So we've got about 12 months ahead of us. So we've got money in the bank to continue what we're doing. Next question is, what are your key milestones for 2024? Well, Copies upgrade of the resource. So taking it to end of Q1, we'll have another update out on that, and then we'll start moving down the sort of pathway of increasing our confidence level, metallurgical test work. But then we'll be drilling for exploration at Capri and Hirabev in particular, and drilling for resources on both of those. Then we'll have another couple of rigs looking at drilling on new tenements that haven't been drilled on yet. So a lot of news coming through there. And then, of course, the 2 Australian projects that I talked about before, a drill rig on each of those. So we're expecting a lot of news flow at various times through the year. So the next question's a long one. It's going to take me a while to read it before I can see I've got 1 minute left in my time. Sorry, there's a long question there. I'm going to have to go through that in a bit more detail later. To read it out now is a bit long, but I'll talk to the person involved. So look, the rest of the questions, I think they're getting a bit long. I'm running out of time. I'm at 29 and a half minutes. I've got 30 minutes. So what I'll endeavour to do is I'll get OTC to send those questions through to me, and I will definitely respond. And if anybody else has got any questions, my email address is on the screen. I answer every email that anybody sends, apart from salesmen, sorry. If you're legitimate questions, I'll answer those. So thanks very much for your time, and thanks for listening to me. and enjoy the rest of your day. I'm headed off to bed. So good night and